Welcome, welcome everyone. Welcome to our webinar series. I'm going to kick it over to our CEO, Sid Wilson.
Great. Thank you very, very much. And as I'm here, great. I'm on video. All right, excellent, buddy. Well, first, Happy New Year to everyone and good afternoon. And thank you for joining us today. I'm delighted to welcome you to our first webinar of ASER's 2026 webinar series. We're excited to be back this year with programming and truly appreciate you taking time to be with us. This year, Hasser will be hosting 6 webinars focused on leadership, research, and advancing inclusion in corporate America. Some of these sessions, like today's, will be free and open to everyone. Others will be offered at no cost to Vanguardian Generations level members, with registration required and available to all others for a fee. And so I also want to share a quick look ahead at our upcoming webinars. First, our upcoming webinar includes March 11th in recognition of Women's History Month, August 12th with a focus on Hasser research, and October 7th in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. And in addition, our Vanguardia and Generations level members will have complimentary access to our leadership development webinars on April 29th and December the 9th, with all others available as part of our registration for a fee. And so these are some of the webinars that we have planned for this year. We hope that you engage with all of us with these webinars as we celebrate our 40th anniversary of advancing inclusion in corporate America. So now let's start with today's webinar. I especially am excited about this webinar, From Inclusion to Impact, Building ERGs that Drive Business Results. You'll be among the first to learn about high-performing ERGs and how they're driving real measurable business outcomes. And you'll gain early access to insights that will be featured in our upcoming white paper on ERG best practices. We're fortunate to have 2 outstanding leaders that are going to guide today's conversation from our HACER team. Jai Vargas, she is our Vice President of Strategic Engagement, and Dr. Gabby Martinez Stevenson, our Director of Research and Insights. Together, they'll show practical strategies to strengthen ERG effectiveness, secure executive sponsorship, and demonstrate clear business values. With that, I'm pleased to turn it over to Jai and Gabby. Thank you all for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the webinar. Take it away, Gabby and Jai.
Thank you so much. We are so delighted. We have so many of you on the call today. Thank you for sharing your energy and for being with us here today. As Sid was mentioning, perhaps if you're not familiar with us, this is a bit about us. We work on the employment, impact sourcing, philanthropy, and governance end of the business. We have been around for 40 years. 2026 marks our 40th anniversary as a nonprofit. Many of you know because you come and visit us at our DC office. And here's a little picture of our team. We've been doing this for quite some time. So it feels really special that so many of you have taken the time, the energy to be able to join us. As Sid, our fearless leader, has mentioned many times before, if you've joined our programs, it is time to double down. The work that we do, particularly with employee resource groups, is so intentional. It doesn't go unmentioned when we say that it needs to be strategic, time bound, and it's really necessary now, even more so, to make sure that we understand the value that we're bringing to the table. And so, hopefully, you've attended some of our programs before. If not, we hope that you're going to join us in May and June in Las Vegas for our EDGE program. Check out our website, acer.org, for more engagement, more of these recorded sessions. By the way, yes, this is going to be recorded in case you want to review it or send it to some of your colleagues. And please share it, right? We know that knowledge is power, and the most important thing that you can do with knowledge is to keep passing it on. And so Today's conversation is a webinar called From Inclusion to Impact. Today's conversation is about more than just employee resource groups and BRGs as communities where you find your people. It's about what becomes possible when inclusion is treated as a leadership capability and as a leadership strength and strategy. Across organizations, we have about 70 something member partner organizations that we work with. But across many of those organizations, we see ERGs filled with passion, with really talented people, with people who are really influential. But a lot of the times, that potential really remains under leveraged. And it doesn't impact the business per se, at least not yet. And so that's exactly what we're going to do here today. As some of you have already found it, you can see that there is a Q&A button. So I love that you're all using this to engage with me. Many of you have said that you can see my slides and you can see us perfectly. There's about 200 of us on right now. You can use that Q&A button down at the bottom on your screen as a way to engage. Even if it's not a question, feel free to engage and send a story or comment. And if it's relevant, I'm going to stop my presentation and I'm going to read it out loud. And I won't mention names, so feel free to be as open and honest as possible. I'm so delighted to be here with you today. And as Sid mentioned, my name is Jai Vargas. I am the Vice President of Strategic Engagements here at ASID. I've got an extensive background in helping ERGs and BRGs. It's literally everything I've always done for the last 20 years. It's really the only thing that I've done for 20 years. I've helped countless employee resource groups launch and some even dismantle. I've helped guide so many ERGs to making sure that they are aligned with the company's overall business goals. It's not just about making it a psychologically safe space for so many of us to find our people and our community, but it's also about impacting the business and the bottom line. So many of you that are joining today, you're part of our network. We work with about 70 corporate members. And on a regular basis, I facilitate about 53 workshops in 1 year on topics such as intersectionality, cultural intelligence, reframing inclusive leadership, Afro-Latinidad. Sid does a fantastic workshop on corporate board readiness. And I do one on nonprofit board readiness. A lot of the work that we do in these workshops and training sessions really feeds into some of the lower hanging fruit of how ERGs are valuable. We help you recruit people from the community to join your organization. And when they join your organization, we come in and do those workshops, those trainings. But it goes far beyond just that hour and a half that we're with you. We really make it a point at ASER to stay connected so that we can see how our workshops, our training, our conversations, our focus groups are making a lasting impact. This is important because when you build those communities of belonging and psychological safety, it always just works out that people feel as though they are being poured into, which then helps us as the overall company because we are retaining individuals who are looking for that connection, right? It's not just about business. It's about showing up to work confident that you could be your most authentic self and that your neighbor in your cubicle next to you understands what's happening at home and what's happening outside in the country right now is affecting you and your work. That's what we're talking about. Aside from the work that we do in those many workshops throughout the year, there's a smaller percentage of organizations that we work with that are really connecting their business resource groups with the company's overall strategy and bottom line. These are the ERGs that are BRGs that are connected to product innovation and development. It's impacting their sales and recruiting when you're looking for like Latinx or Portuguese or Black or Asian engineers in a specific part of the country. We want to make sure that that's what we're here to focus on. Those are the types of affinity groups, employee resource groups, and business resource groups that we want to help. That's what we're here to discuss. That's what we need more of. And that's why we've built this leadership development program that we're here presenting to you today. A little bit more about this journey, what we're here to talk about. When you work with us, we are going to help you understand what are some of the common mistakes and challenges when it comes to building and sustaining and supporting employee and business resource groups. There are many. Many of you today are joining from employee resource groups that have been around for 40 years. Your challenges are so much different than the challenges of an ERG that just opened in 2020 because of what was happening in the world. We're also going to show you our program model and our programmatic timeline. So when you start engaging with us in this work, we're going to show you how long it takes. It's not one and done. It doesn't happen in a week or even a month or even a quarter. It takes a long time to see the impact and really measure the metrics and the goals. We're going to help you identify the criteria so that you can work to build a sustainable ERG and BRG business model and an ecosystem. Because so many of you are replacing and evolving your ERG leaders typically every 2 years, we want to make sure that you have the tools and the structure and the history and the context and the booklets and the material to be able to give it to the next leader. We know that you don't have the bandwidth to be able to teach and train some of these new ERG leaders on what's happened in the past and how we measure success. And so that's where we come in. We're also going to show you how to align the E and the BRG business goals to the company's strategy. In this program, we discuss how inclusive leaders, such as yourselves, drive measurable impact. So throughout this whole program, you're going to learn how this program, it's called the ALL program, Accelerating and Leveraging Leaders, that stands for ALL, the All Together program, how it's an intentional, strategic investment for your ERG leadership, one that's going to help equip them to move from just programs and activity to business impact, from just advocacy, which is great, to alignment, and from well-intentioned work and efforts to measurable value for the entire organization. We don't do this work in a silo. We have tons of benchmarking and research over many, many years. I mean, we've been around for 40 years, and I don't take credit for that. I have an incredible colleague. We have ACER's Research Institute, and I want to introduce to you my dear colleague, Dr. Gabby Martinez Stevenson, who's going to tell you a little bit about herself and her background and the work that she does. So many of you already know about her because of the Corporate Inclusion Index survey that you've all been taking for many, many, many years. And so, Gabby, please introduce yourself and take it away.
Thanks, Jai. And thanks also for providing such a great introduction to not only the webinar, but also to Hasera for those who may not be familiar with us and our work. So I'll just go quickly a little bit about myself because I know we have a really packed agenda, as Jai has shown. So I have about 15 years of experience working with various stakeholders such as Mass General Hospital, the Massachusetts Department of Higher Ed, Everfi, and other organizations to help them evaluate, develop, and implement various types of programs and initiatives. My dissertation focused on understanding the impact of soccer fandom in the United States, Latinidad, and the American identity. And I also have extensive experience in course development and instruction. So I'm really here to offer this, the unique perspective on how we can help support these ERGs through the various ways that Jai has mentioned. So before we dive into the content of the program, as Jai mentioned earlier, we will be using Slido. And we're going to start off with a question from Slido. And it's basically just a quick little icebreaker, just so we know who is here and what experiences you all have as within your ERGs. So if you could please either scan the QR code or join us at slido.com and let us know, have you ever been an ERG leader? And this is just an opportunity for us to understand, wow, it's truly amazing. So it's looking like over half of our participants today, almost about 70%, have engaged with ERGs as leadership. So this not only shows that the commitment to your companies and to your ERGs, but also I think shows how we already are engaging with this work. And as Jai mentioned, our purpose here is to show you how we can make this work more intentional. So before we begin, I know as we can see from these results, many of you already know what an ERG is. You represent them, you lead them. But I also know that there's folks on this call that are still in the process of launching the respective ERGs or still trying to understand how an ERG can help their organization. So just so we're all on the same page and as a best practice, I want to ensure that we all are coming with the same understanding of what an ERG is. So here at HACER, we define ERGs as voluntary employee-led organizations that foster workplace inclusion while also advancing business objectives through strategic initiatives and community building. Some of these core activities can focus on recruitment and retention, community engagements, professional development, and mentorship, in which employees engage in various activities such as leadership development, workshops, supplier matchmaking events, or networking events. We also understand ERGs as volunteer-run organizations with voluntary participation that need that in order to achieve maximum support and impact, they need to have the support of their executive sponsor and have a clear business alignment. And to scale impact, companies need clear metrics, formal governance, and a line of sight to business outcomes. And there's really a need to reframe ERGs from nice to haves to measurable contributors. And this is where we here at HACER come in, and why we really do feel that our approach to ERG work is the future of ERGs through the HACER All program. And as we know, data has shown that there is really a need to reevaluate this approach when we take about the consideration how we're building and growing ERGs that avoids these common mistakes and addresses also the following challenges in order to maximize their impact and reach their goals. So a common challenge that I think a lot of ERGs can relate to is managing ERG sprawl. So what this is when you have many groups that may form around dozens of identities. For example, you might have a women's ERG, a Latino ERG, a Black ERG, a disability ERG, and other various other business interests and categories. And while in theory this is not an issue, what happens is if there's not an overarching structure that guides and connects your ERGs, that has every ERG working towards the same goal or metrics, that's what can lead to ERG sprawl and several major challenges. For example, if you have too many disconnected ERGs with various goals and various modes of impact and success, it can lead some employees feeling disconnected or even making them feel confused as to which ERG they should join, or may make some folks feel unintentionally alienated because they don't feel like they fit into each ERG. For example, I might wonder, should I join the women's ERG or should I join the Latino ERG? So when we have this overarching connection, employees don't have to make those choices because they're all working towards the same goal. So, and also if you have too many ERGs that have various goals and metrics, it can also diminish the power of each of those groups because company leaders are going to attempt to listen and address everyone's needs and concerns. So while this doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't have multiple ERGs, it really is emphasizing the importance of having an overarching structure and metrics that connects all of these ERGs. So you might be wondering, what does that look like? Well, that's when we get to the HISAIR Altogether program model. So this model really takes the learnings from that we mentioned previous and from the previous slide to create a system that considers not only the internal needs of the companies, but also the external impacts as well. So this model really applies to any type of ERG structure, and it doesn't matter if you have one ERG or 20 ERGs. This program is really meant to emphasize the outcomes. We know that activities can change. We know that, activities can change as you're working towards a goal, and that's okay. What matters is that the goal and the outcomes are the same and they remain static. And that's what this model is helping us represent. And it's showing what matters is working across these pillars that we've identified, the employment pillar, community engagement, and governance, in partnership with each other to show how your company is able to experience positive, impactful results from the ERG work. If we take a look at the employment pillar, it represents the importance of employee involvement and leadership in achieving the intended outcomes. Without employees, this work can't happen. You can't have an ERG without employees, right? So employees really are the foundation of an ERG. The community engagement piece helps connect the employee piece as well the external piece, right? When we think of our community, it's not just our internal communities, but it's also the external communities that we engage in, that we support, that our companies also support. And that brings us to the governance piece. This is where the governance piece is key. In order for there to be success in your ERGs, in order for you to be able to achieve your outcomes, ensure you have the resources that you need in order to succeed, there needs to be sponsorship, governance buy-in, executive level buy-ins. And this is really representing that importance. And these pillars are connected by an evaluation plan. There's always a plan. There's always a way to measure. And it emphasizes the need to work in partnership rather than silo. If you look at these dotted line arrows, the reason that they're dotted line is because it's showing that there's movement. There's always work that's being done, always towards the same goal. Like I mentioned, those activities might change. You might realize, oh no, we shouldn't be engaging in X activity. We need to instead engage in Y in order to achieve what we want to achieve. And that's fine. That's what the evaluation plan is for, right? Evaluate what you're doing, make changes, always ensure that you're working towards that goal. And now I will turn it back to Jai, who's going to dive even deeper into the different areas and buckets of areas and what this programmatic journey entails.
Yeah. And as I mentioned before, this type of work doesn't happen in one training, one call, 1 month, or even 1 quarter. Because when we start working together, our initial assessment is one-on-one interviews and conversations and focus groups and surveys with your ERG leaders, all of them, not just the Hispanic ERG leader. That's something that we want to emphasize. When you invest in a program like this, it should be connected to all of your ERGs. And we're not depending on one person to tell us what all of your ERGs are actually boots on the ground executing on. That's the importance of those interviews, those surveys, a lot of conversations with stakeholders that are actually doing the work. So a lot of you mentioned that you are an ERG leader. Maybe you're a chapter lead, maybe you're a national lead, maybe you're a co-lead, maybe you're a subcommittee lead. Whoever your CHRO or your CDO says is going to be working with us, that's when we begin the initial assessment. Many, many conversations then bring us to an evaluations outcome meeting, where we then share with the stakeholder what came of those interviews, the focus group, the survey, the very deep intentional conversations about what is really actually being done. We then suggest a program model. We could suggest, You know what? You guys have been doing this really, really well for about 4 or 5 years now. You may not need the whole kit and caboodle. Perhaps you just need us to work really intentionally around 2 or 3 metrics. And so we suggest a 3 month program model, etc. We're going to determine collectively some of those business metrics that you want to meet. And then during the kickoff meeting, we're going to outline the plan, identify those stakeholders. We're going to talk about our role, our responsibilities, the timeline of what we suggest this is going to be completed in. We're going to talk about the different trainings and activities and workshops that we are going to be delivering to those ERG leaders. And we're going to intentionally schedule all of the check-ins so we can do checks and balances. And then during those multi-month BRG leadership training sessions, we're going to be training those leaders on how to align across your business, your company, your industry. We want to make sure that they deeply understand how to impact those areas. I just did an awesome program. I hope Toyota is on. I just did a hackathon with Toyota not too long ago where we were building a Toyota Tacoma for new moms because I just had a baby this past year. And I said, I need a new car. The current car that I have, I can't put anything in my trunk besides a stroller. I can barely put a bag back there. I need a new car. And so the hackathon was to be able to intentionally innovate product design for new moms. I mean, we came up with things like a wipe warmer, a formula warmer, and a built-in camera so that you could see the baby in the back seat and I don't have this third-party camera. Even the seat was being measured in terms of the temperature of the baby in the back seat. I mean, it was awesome what we did with Toyota. And so those are the types of business metrics and brand and product innovation that we're talking about. It's about taking our lived experiences as a woman, as an old millennial, as a new mom, as a fur baby mom with a small car living in the burbs in New Jersey, 40 minutes from New York City, and all of the things that I do in my personal life. How can we intentionally bake my experiences, which so many other people are living through? How do we bake that into what we're building at this company? And how am I, as an ERG member, doing that? Yes, for the company, but really for me. That's what we're talking about because you can't have one without the other. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that what you're building and helping the company solve for, yes, we're helping the company, but we're really helping ourselves and our community. I'm going to show you an example in just a few slides, but those are the types of work that we do. And it doesn't end there. Once we're done with that 3 or 6 or 1 year engagement and program and training, we do another program assessment. We survey, we focus group, we interview, we do a case study, we hand that over to you so that you could remember, so that you could pass it on, so that you can deliver. It's an executive summary that you need to keep in your files. You get a certification as well. And every 6 months, we check in with you to make sure that you're hitting those metrics that we had discussed. It is so important that you have a partner, a quarterback externally that can see this from a higher level. Because we know that sometimes you don't have the bandwidth or the individual that does this. This is why we built this, because we are asked to do this a lot. And so we said, you know what? We've been doing this for a while. We've been asked to do this a lot. Let's build a structure around
Mhm.
that. So, what else are we capable of doing? Here are some of the practices we engage in. We're going to help you define the why you're even launching an ERG in the first place, or perhaps why you're evolving that ERG to a business resource group. We're going to talk about understanding the true potential for your ERGs, not just for its people and psychological safety and community, but for the business. We're going to take that culture, that experience, that history, that story that I carry as an individual, turn that lived experience into business insight. You know how many times we've connected with companies and we say, wow, you've built this incredible product, and it was with our people and community in mind, but where did you get that data? And who told you Latinos in New York City looked like that? Where'd you get this image? It doesn't, we're Dominican and Puerto Rican here in New York City. How'd this product get launched? And they're like, oh, we've got an agency on record that's helping us do the research on the data. And then when we meet this agency on record, they don't necessarily reflect our community and our people, our Black community, our Asian community, our disabled people community. And so it's important that we see the value within ourselves, within our ERG, to then say, we are our own consumers. Let's leverage our story and our history as the context and the catalyst for building these products intentionally, right? We're also going to show you how to secure and leverage executive sponsors. We always start small and build with intention only as needed. We establish strong organizational governance structures, like Gabby was mentioning in that model. We're aligning your ERG's mission to the business's bottom line, and it's always a true way street. That executive sponsor and those business goals that are being met can't happen without our ERG and our people. Yes, again, it's to solve the business's challenges, but in return, it helps us. It's so important to do that. We also ensure and align that your ERG has the resources that you need to accomplish said metrics, or else we don't put that on the list. And most importantly, we want to continuously show you how to evaluate the programs that you're currently doing so that you can little by little make those improvements. And don't forget to celebrate so many of those successes, because a lot of you are doing really, really great work. But after that event is done, you're like, on to the next one, right? You really have to sit in that success. Do the case study, talk about what you solved, talk about some of the challenges that you saw, and it's the reason why you built that program. Put a beautiful bow around it and say, this is the executive summary. Let's send it to everyone so that they know the value of the program we just executed on. I'm going to share with Gabby the stage, and she's going to talk a little bit about your ERGs are already probably connected to the talent.
Yeah, and thanks, Jai. And thanks for that deep dive into really the theoretical background and understanding of how we're approaching the ERGs. And now just to bring us back to a little bit more context as to what does this mean and what is the potential impact by engaging in the work in the way that we are presenting it. And that's what you're seeing here is that by engaging in this work intentionally with established metrics across your organization, you will be able to drive your business outcomes while also having some of these internal success stories. ERGs create systematic talent advantages by building referral networks, enhancing employee engagement, and providing structured pathways for career advancement through mentorship and sponsorship program. And what does this mean? It means that you're able to generate 40% more employee and candidate referrals, and you demonstrate 23% higher retention rates and accelerate internal promotions by 30%. These are the tangible results that you can achieve by more intentionally engaging your ERG and BRG work. Moreover, when you look at the business impact of your ERG or BRG, you see that they function as business accelerators. They directly contribute to procurement success, community engagement, and brand reputation through these employee-driven initiatives that align with corporate strategic priorities. And later on in the presentation, Jai is going to show you some real-world examples of what these business impacts and activities can look like. But in general, you can on average experience a 15% increase in impact sourcing engagement through these ERG connections. you see your impact with the community through the average of 2,500 community service hours. These are real tangible impacts that you, through your ERGs, can achieve by engaging it through a very intentional, structured manner. And also, we can't ignore the fact that you can't do this work alone, right? You need resources, you need support. And that's why the governance piece is so important, and the executive level sponsorships, you can access these services and supports. And these resources that you're seeing here, they just represent the most common foundation of successful ERG programs. With consistently high adoption rates, they reflect a proven value in supporting both the individual development and the organizational inclusion objectives of the ERGs. Now that we've established, the theoretical background, we've talked through some of these tangible impacts you can have, we're going to now have our next Slido question that's going to really look at you and really ask you, what are the different ways in which your ERG measures success? And it's great to see that we already have some
Yeah,
participation.
it looks like they
I
were ahead of the
know.
game. They
I
already
love
answered this
it.
question. I think they had their Slido open.
You guys are good. I love it. And as you can see here, engagement, attendance. So here, so what we're seeing here, these are the metrics. You all are identifying the different metrics that you are using to assess your ERG success. And what we would do here at HACER is then take these metrics and then ask you how. How are you measuring attendance? What does attendance show you? What is a successful attendance rate? What does that mean? What are the goals? Same with growth. How are you measuring growth? What does growth mean for your ERG? What does it mean for the company? Does growth for ERG mean the same as growth for the business? And if not, is there a way for us to align those metrics? And as you can see here, there's so many different types of metrics and ways to engage and measure success that as Jai has been explaining, it really isn't a one-size-fits-all program or approach to ERGs. It's really about listening to you, your needs, and figuring out ways to strategize in order for you to achieve the success that can be measured.
I
Wow.
love this. Yeah,
I
this is
love this.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
We'll send this to all of you as well.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
You know,
So I want to talk a little bit about where you're currently at. When we talk about these communities that we've built, it's right in the name, right? You have to be able to build upon a lot of what we are looking for: psychological safety, community, belonging. And it really depends where your organization is in its current state. Maybe your organization hasn't yet launched an ERG group. You may want to start with an affinity group. And the reason why we show this image is because we saw that many of you perhaps don't even have an ERG yet. So the first order of business would be to create a group for awareness, networking, support, culture, belonging, community. And when you've established a good community that can connect with others, then you can evolve into a more structured employee resource group. And when we get to an ERG, this one is a bit more intentional. This one has a formal structure. You can start connecting with the community externally. You can start helping the organization recruit more people like yourselves. You can even start mentorship programs. And usually, the biggest focus of an employee resource group is professional development workshops. So many of you are in this bucket. We've worked with a few organizations that are business resource groups. And when we talk about business resource groups, I gave you that example of Toyota and the hackathon. You've got to be able to show us how you're tracking and measuring success and sales and retention and recruiting and brand innovation. You have to have the numbers. So a lot of times people will be like, "Oh yeah, we're a business resource group." And we're like, "Really? Show us how. Where are the numbers? Where is that measurement of those metrics? And they don't have it. When it comes to a business resource group, it's product innovation, it's business impact, it's customer focus, it's taking your cultural intelligence as an Asian professional, as a person with a disability who's working here, as a Black professional. It's taking that lived experience and then focusing it on building a product for your customer. It's also a breeding ground, right? A mentoring stage for high potential and emerging leaders. If you have a BRG, it is sustainable and it is integrated into the business. We need more business resource groups to showcase their value to the business so that no one can ever question your ERG's intention, your impact, your growth, your spend, or your significance. We don't ever want someone to be like, so what have you guys done with all this money? Are you just like celebrating this cultural awareness month this one time a year and that's it? We want to make sure that you are intentionally ingrained in the business.
And
Here
before you
are
move on,
some,
John, actually, can you
no,
go
go
back?
ahead,
Because
Gabby.
I think we just got a great question
Okay.
that so an attendee would like to know that they said perhaps I had a misconception that ERG and BRG are the same thing, just different terminology. What is the difference and can an enterprise have both?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. That is a great question. An enterprise can have both. You can have an employee resource group that focuses on pet owners. And I know that sounds funny, but guess what? I know that a lot of you are on Nationwide has an ERG just for pet owners. And it's probably the most successful because they are so engaged internally as well as externally in the community, giving back to so many causes that are impacting their own pets. You're like, why do they have a pet ERG? Because guess what? They sell pet insurance nationwide. And so they saw, oh, so many of our employees don't have pet insurance, yet they have pets. Ding, ding, ding. Here's an opportunity so that we can measure how many products we can sell to some of our employees that have pets, pet insurance. And so, yes, perhaps you have a group that's just an ERG and focuses on professional development and mentorship circles. And maybe you've got another ERG like the women's ERG that's a business resource group, solving problems for women employees internally and for business and product innovation externally. So you can have both. But thank you for sharing that. And I'm loving the Q&A and the comments coming in. This is awesome. Remember, feel free to use the Q&A button for stories and comments. You guys are saying, I love this image. Can you share? Nice. Can you also share some of the few organizations that currently have VRGs? Yes, yes, yes. So we mentioned Nationwide. My gosh, we mentioned Toyota is fantastic. PepsiCo, Best Buy. You guys are intentional, strategic, unbelievable, the work that you all do. I hope you're on, but thank you for that. I want to share this with you. Yes, you'll notice that number 2 and 4 are in a different color. Usually, when someone is evolving from an ERG to a BRG, they focus on this. Hey, how can we use the ERG to attract talent or help us with retention and help us develop our people? You also focus on brand and reputation. Hey, can our ERG go out to this health conference and maybe recruit some people or just talk about how great it is to work here? A lot of you are already doing that. But all the other examples that are in the blue color, product innovation, market growth, operational improvements, leveraging your cultural lived experiences and business impact, sales and market access, impact sourcing and partnerships. Number 6, if you don't know what that means, it means my BRG is going to help source vendors from this community, the Asian community, the disability community, because we buy a lot of paper here. And who are we buying from? We don't know? How about this vendor? There's a whole RFP process, of course, that we're going to follow with marketing and with legal and processes, but we're going to spearhead that. right? So there's so many areas of the business that you can impact. And my question for you all is, what type of support is your ERG looking for? Oh, I see that some of you are already answering. The question is, what types of support is your ERG looking for? Now that you've seen quite a bit on how we are intentionally moving ERGs to focus from business and personal professional development to impact. So you're looking for allies, you're looking for opportunities to actively support the business, more senior leadership engagement, governance, budget, yes, ROI, recruiting, leader involvement, program ideas that lead to better engagement. That's the one. I'm going to focus on that one.
I do love seeing metrics there, though.
Yeah, the research woman over here, Dr. Gabby, loves seeing metrics and data because that's her ballpark. This is great. Career development, leadership, more
Wow.
senior leadership engagement. Love that. Actual metrics to target, knowledge, understanding, re-engaging members. What I want to focus on and keep answering. By the way,
Please.
we're going to be sending you all this recording, and we're going to send you all these screenshots from Slido so that you can keep it. But I want to show you an example, specifically when it comes to engagement. Here's an example. Next week is MLK Junior Day. Let's say you want to host a program with a number of ERGs. Well, I've thought of a programmatic idea that can be an opportunity, not just for the business impact, but for the people itself. So here's an example. There's a large consumer facing company. The Black ERG raised concerns that there's certain digital products that weren't performing well for Black women, particularly the voice and image based features within their product. They had a lot of errors when it came to Black women engaging with that product. Once the Black ERG explored that issue, it really became clear that a similar design gap was affecting women and customers with disabilities, especially those people with disabilities that were using assistive technologies. So the Black ERG partnered with the Disability ERG, and they worked with product, engineering, and customer experience teams internally to be able to expand their user testing earlier on in the development process so that they weren't getting all of these errors later on. The company was able to adopt more inclusive design standards across its product line, including accessibility and bias checks that were part of their standard reviews, right? These changes that they made improved usability for Black women while also benefiting women in general, while also benefiting people with disabilities. It helped reduce errors, it lowered those support requests, and it expanded the product's overall reach. So, as you can see here, by these ERGs coming together, we shifted the conversation from an isolated issue to now a shared responsibility. How are we, as the ERG leaders, going to solve this problem? Not just for Black people, not just for Black women, not just for women, not just for people with disabilities, but for all of our internal and external communities. And so, what began with the Black ERG, right? This became an enterprise wide change, right? Providing that when ERGs collaborate, we're building systems that work better for everyone. I want you all, when you're creating these programs, to focus on the challenge and the impact that you're making versus just the activity. So, yes, you're solving problems for the company, but really it's for your community. And I love this quote that you'll see up at the top here. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. That's an MLK quote, and that really speaks to this example. And I want to ask all of you this question because I'm curious. Is your organization planning an ERG program for next week? Because we're celebrating and honoring the life and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We've got about 40% of attendees saying yes. We've got a really big chunk, 39% saying no, unfortunately. And a bit of a surprise, but maybe about 20 people saying, you know, I'm not sure. The idea here is don't wait for your Cultural Heritage Month to come up in May or in June or September to be able to work in tandem with other ERGs to solve problems. Make sure that you are raising your hand to be helpful, to be inclusive, so that we can better what's happening across our organization. I want to quickly show you another example, but this is a real life example. And it's one that Macy's created with their Hispanic employee resource group. They said, you know what would be really cool if we created a quinceañera themed gift card that consumers can buy at Macy's registers everywhere. Would they buy it? Can we track that? They absolutely did. They launched that and they were able to track the fact that $250,000 worth of gift cards, the quinceañera one, was purchased. These are the types of metrics that you can focus on. We have a lot of other examples. For example, I spoke a lot about Nationwide. Nationwide said, you know what? We actually have a lot of employees that don't own one of our nationwide insurance products. How about we launch a program and a campaign to be able to engage the ERG to speak about these products that we sell, like pet insurance? And they were able to see that 32,000 employees purchased one of their products within that certain sales window. And 10% of that was ERG participation. But that idea came from their ERGs. We have so many other examples. I see a lot of questions in the chat box are very specific to your own company or your industry. So what I'm going to say is please reach out to us individually. You're going to be able to scan a QR code so that you can connect with us. And we're going to get on a call and answer some of those specific questions. By attending this webinar, Gabby's going to tell you a bit about the white paper that she wrote with one of our colleagues in the Research Institute.
Thanks, Jai. Yes. So I know that we have just gone through a lot of information. We've jumped through theoretical models, examples, data to show what the success can look like. So we also have a white paper that, dives in a little bit deeper on these issues that Jai and I have been discussing. I wrote this with our new the Senior Vice President and Chief of Staff, Eric Lopez. So he was also a contributor to this white paper as well. And we really focused on helping folks understand what a sustainable ERG looks like, what the program model, how that can be implemented to help you achieve your goals, and also helps define what it is an ERG and how you can evolve your ERG. So if you would like to download a copy of this white paper, which is you all have since for joining the webinar, just for you until the wide release next week, you can scan your QR code, but it will also be linked into the follow-up email that you will receive that will also include the recording to this webinar. So if you don't have time to scan the code right now, don't worry, you will still have access to it.
Wonderful. So if you're all ready to elevate your ERGs from activity and programming to actual sustainable integrated impact and connecting inclusion more directly to your organization's success and business metrics and bottom line, we'd love to explore how we can partner with you and make that happen. Let's really turn our ERG potential into organizational performance by developing true partnerships. Here in this next slide, you're going to be able to scan another QR code so that you can set up a one-on-one call with us. And I want to pull up some of the questions that I have here so that we can see which ones we can share a little bit more broader.
Well, I think a great question first is someone asked, what's a quinceanera?
Oh my goodness, I love that question. A quinceañera is when a young lady turns 15, and it's not like any other common birthday party. It's a rite of passage for a young Latina to go from a young lady to a young woman. So there is a lot of custom and culture and language and music and dancing and food and family that goes into this type of birthday celebration and rite of passage. Hundreds and hundreds of people come together to welcome this young girl to being now a young lady. That is a quinceañera. And it's big, 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 big in the Hispanic, Latinx, and the Latino community. That's why the Hispanic ERG at Macy's said, hey, we know what we could do to track sales. Quinceañeras are huge. And usually we like to give money. How about we give a Macy's gift card? And they branded it, and it was a fantastic idea by the Hispanic ERG. What other questions have you seen in here, Gabby? Yeah, someone says, are ERGs and affinity groups the same thing? They're not. So, an affinity group is somewhere where you can create community, belonging, networking. It's a potluck. I want to find my people. I need connection. I need help. And when you move over and evolve to an employee resource group, it's more structured. You have metrics and goals, and you focus on launching workshops to then develop those members. Hey, I want to be a more confident public speaker. And you, as the ERG leader, say, tell me more. Wonderful. We see here by this survey that a lot of other people are being challenged with difficult and brave conversations of conflict with their manager. We're going to have a program to help you solve for that. That's the biggest difference. So, affinity groups are fun, potluck culture, find your people, and employee resource groups are much more structured and they're solving a people problem. A business resource group is solving a business problem. So, thank you for that. So many questions. My goodness.
No. And some of
Here's
these, oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Love this.
Oh, no, I was just going to mention that as you're just a reminder that some of these are a little bit too specific for us to answer. We really do encourage you to set up an ERG, a 30-minute call with Jai and I, so we can discuss these questions one-on-one and go in depth.
Yeah, here's another one that may be relevant to some of you. In an organization with multiple ERGs, an ERG structure where you have a sponsor, a chair, a co-chair, and pillar leads or engagement committee, who should be responsible for driving something like this? It would be the CHRO or the CDO, the Chief Diversity Officer. CHRO is the Chief Human Resource Officer. They would be responsible to be able to give you the metrics, the goals, the structure, and the budget to execute. They would give that to the national co-chairs. Typically, there are two per ERG. Then you'll have subcommittees, an executive sponsor who's a leader that can give you budget, time, and energy, influence, and access. They support you as the national ERG leader to execute on the goals the CHRO has given you. But remember, yes, it's helping the company and the business, but it's also helping our community and our people. That was a great question. Thank you for that. It's a pachanga, as somebody says for quinceañeras. Yeah, somebody else asked, can an ERG change company policies.
Ooh.
Well, absolutely, 1,000% yes. We've seen so many ERGs leverage their cultural, personal stories and experience. For example, maternity leave. Perhaps you're part of an organization that doesn't have a maternity leave policy for a same-sex couple. Maybe they don't have policies around people with disabilities working from home or with the type of technology that they need access to. I have seen it time and time again where ERGs have the value, the leverage, the agency and the power to be able to create change in company policy. That's when you are like really,
Hmm.
really making change. But this is wonderful. What we're going to do is we're going to reach out to everyone who's registered. We're going to send you this recording and we're going to make sure that you have a way to connect with us. You'll see here our emails. We thank you so much for your time, your engagement, your questions, and your energy. We hope to be able to work with you. And please, 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 let's really focus on being intentional. Let's focus on being true business partners. And even if you don't have an affinity group yet or an ERG yet, we can help you launch it. Small, with intention, and with the right steps. So scan that QR code. We'll set up a one-on-one call and we're going to help you. It's just January. So that's the best part. It's going to take us the whole year, but we're going to do it right. And we're going to do it in partnership and in collaboration with all of you. We thank you. We are signing off. We appreciate you. You'll be receiving the white paper, the recording, and some of these Slido responses. Thank you all so much and have a wonderful rest of the week.
Thank you.